Hi, welcome. This is video number 2. I am Marek Mularczyk from sitetraining.co.uk, one of the UK's leading specialists in Adobe Certified training. And this is video number 2 of new features in Photoshop CS6. In this video, this should actually have been the first video. I'll be talking about user interface, some changes that Adobe made here. Now, first thing you're going to notice is that the interface is now much darker from the previous versions of Photoshop. This is the first time in a really long time when Adobe changed the background within the Photoshop. In the previous versions, we could do it in Bridge. That's what I used to do it in Bridge, changing the color of the interface. But now it's in Photoshop as well. Okay. Now I'm just going to open an image. I'll show you something interesting, and then we'll talk more about the interface. So I'm just going to go for File, Open, and I'll navigate to something with my images. Let's see, maybe here. Something that I've noticed here in Photoshop CS6 is that when you open images, I'm going to highlight one of the images, let's say maybe this one here, there's no preview in the bottom section. Okay? In the open dialog box, normally you've got a preview window. This is not in here. Remember, we're still working with the beta, so this may change. I'm just going to open an image. Okay, now just a few changes within the interface. As I mentioned in my previous video, the adjustments panel changed. Now you only get the icons in the adjustments panel. And here's what happens. Let's say I'm going to apply maybe the curves adjustment. What happens in Photoshop CS6 is that a new panel opens, the properties panel. Properties panel is new in Photoshop CS6. The rest is the same, so I would click and drag in here and in there. Okay, just to adjust the image. Also notice that the icons have been redesigned, most of the icons in Photoshop. So for example, in the properties panel here in the curves, the icons at the bottom of the screen look different. We still got the bin icon and the eye, so you can turn the visibility on and off. Then you can reset the adjustment back to default, and you can see the previous state as well. And you can clip the adjustment layer to the layer below. It's just the icons have changed. I'm going to close that. Also here at the bottom of the screen, we've got a mini bridge and timeline. Okay. Now, let me just open another image. I'm just going to show you something interesting that's changed in the layers panel. Let's see. I'm just going to open one of the designs. Should have somewhere here. Okay, it's in the garden. In the layers panel, now we've got this new section here. This is something really interesting. Now, what is this you can do with this here is that you can search for files. So, for example, if I know the, well, not files, the layers. So if I know the layer name, I can search for it. So, for example, I can search for a layer called garden. Any layer with the name garden will now appear within the layers panel. Very useful if you have loads of layers. Okay, I quite often work with 20, 30 or even more layers in my designs. So this, I find this to be a really useful feature. Okay, just going to delete that. And there's other options in here. You can also search for the kind of layer. So you can search for the layers with the pixels, images, adjustment layers. So if I click on this icon, I would only see the adjustment layers. Go no layers, match the filter. So I'll click on it again to disable that. We've got text layers as well. So I've got one text layer in here. Right, and then in the next icon, we've got here shape layers. Okay, I don't have any shape layers in here. And finally, at the end, smart objects. And I've got 1, 2, 3 smart objects here. Very useful feature now, new in Photoshop CS6. Okay. Another options here is that you can also change, search for layer effects. Okay, so I could find any layer with any of these layer effects, or even modes, blend modes. Okay, right, as well as the attributes and color. Okay. Now at the bottom of the screen you've got a mini bridge and timeline. These are new in Photoshop CS6 as well. I'll be talking more about timeline in the future video on video in Photoshop CS6. There are lots of changes, lots of new improvements. A lot has changed. You remember mini bridge, but this time mini bridge will appear at the bottom of your screen. Okay, so I'm just going to close this file, I don't need it anymore. And with this image here, I'm going to save it, and I'll show you something new in Photoshop CS6. File, I'm going to do Save As. I'm going to give it a new name, Final. Okay, I'm saving the same folder, I'll click Save. No, I don't want to use that. And now the files, this is quite a small file, but what's new in Photoshop CS6 is that the files will save in the background. So if you have a big file, it may take, let's say, 5 or 10 seconds to save it. Photoshop will be saving it in the background. You can do something else in the meantime. There will be no dialog box with the progress bar. Fantastic feature. Another new feature in Photoshop CS6 is the Autosave. Let me show you that. Let's go to Edit, Preferences. Okay. And if we just go to General Category here, hold on, File Handling, sorry. In the file handling, you can tell Photoshop to save automatically every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so. This is new in Photoshop CS6. It's saving the recovery version. So what happens is that if Photoshop crashes, you got the recovery information on your hard drive, and when you reopen the file, Photoshop will retrieve it from the file in the hard drive. Fantastic feature that was well demanded from loads of Photoshop users, because in applications like Premiere we've got an autosave, in Office applications as well, but we didn't have it in Photoshop for performance issues. And also saving background here as a checkbox. Okay. Now one more thing I wanted to show you in this video is, because we're talking about Photoshop interface, changes in Photoshop interface, is that if you go to interface category here on the left hand side, you can change the color themes. Okay. So the interface doesn't have to be the dark color. You can change it to this icon here, and you get it, well, more or less the same as it used to be in the previous versions of Photoshop. Okay, so you get to choose different color themes, and you can change the colors of the background and the border, like in the previous versions. Okay. Another interesting feature in here is the Show Transformation Values. Now, in Photoshop CS6, when you resize images or when you crop images, you see the values. Okay. And you can decide where they appear next to your cursor. I'll be talking about that in the future videos as well. So for now, I'm just going to press OK. Thank you for